So let me ask you about collaboration, because you do quite a bit of collaboration, which is something that always makes me just a little bit cautious, because I'm a bit of a control freak. But you'd alluded to the wonderful illustration and a wonderful, memorable illustration, A Place Inside of Me, where you're talking about fear, and the protagonist is on his bed, curled up, frightened, and there's the blue and the red lights coming through the window, and we know he's terrified because presumably there's a police car nearby. That image is so striking that when you first see it, it almost interrupts the flow of your words. Is that something where you can work with the illustrator ahead of time? Is that a happy coincidence? And then how do you have the trust that you can know that image is going to be there and do what you needed to do for the story?
Yeah, well, the fact that I self-published so many picture books means that I had an art director's hat on for quite a few of those books. And I had to say to the illustrator, this is exactly what I'm looking for. And you never get exactly what you want, but you can at least point them in the right direction. So when you publish a book traditionally, it's rare for the author to have a say either in who the illustrator will be or in how they illustrate the book. And I was really lucky that Grace Kendall was my editor for FSG, and she acquired A Place Inside of Me, and she picked an illustrator, and then that illustrator backed out, and she picked another illustrator and said, hey, what do you think, Zetta? And I said, oh, she looks fantastic. You know, this was Noah's debut picture book. And so Grace said, I think I'm just going to give it to her and let's see what she comes back with. And she had drawn sketches of each emotion being represented by an animal. And my immediate thought was, you know, some teacher somewhere is going to say, what's your spirit animal? And did not want folks going down that road. So I said, you know, and it was a little girl, a very young girl. I said, you know, I really think the content of the narrative is better suited to a boy, an older boy. Let's have him on a skateboard. I mean, I really had a lot of say in what the different spreads looked like. I mean, Noah did all of the different layouts. And yeah, when it came to the bedroom, I wanted a scene of red and blue lights and the boy standing at the window, which would have mirrored Malcolm X's very iconic image of him standing at the window holding, of course, a shotgun because his family is being threatened. And they decided it would be better if the boy was smaller and the room looked much bigger. And so that's why there's a picture of Malcolm X on the wall. That was sort of a hat tip or a conciliatory move toward me. But yeah, to have those lights, that was really important. I think it was just red initially. And I was like, no, it needs to be red and blue. Noah was fantastic. And Grace, I didn't talk directly to Noah, but through Grace, I could say, put a yarmulke on that man standing there at the vigil, because I want to make sure we have religious diversity represented. And that sister there could have hijab and, you know, different things. I had some input, which was fantastic. And that doesn't happen very often. And I just finished a book with another press and another illustrator who did not take any advice. I had a whole list of concerns and he just refused to make revisions. So it doesn't always happen. And I'm trying to keep my fingers crossed that the book will turn out okay. But, you know, some artists are open to it and some aren't.
Well, I hope it works itself out. Does that drive you nuts, having had the total autonomy of being able to self-publish and call them all the shots, and now these jokers who say they're they've got the money, so they're going to tell you a little bit of how they do it? I mean, how involved are you able to be in your traditionally published books, and how tight are your hands?
I mean, I was lucky with Random House that Diane Landolph, my editor for the first 4 books, you know, she would run the artists by me. Do you have a preference? Do you like this one, that one, this one? And so I was happy with the artists that were chosen. And if something came up in an illustration that I didn't approve of, I could say, hey, we need to change that. So I definitely had input on the illustrations for those books and the covers. You know, the thing about self-publishing is you do have total autonomy, but then it's a lot of work, right? It's you wearing all those different hats, and you have to do all the marketing and publicity and promotion and sales and distribution. And, you know, I just had a bookseller reach out to me, and he needs what is it, like not 15,000 books, but something close like that of one of my self-published titles. I'm just not set up for that. Like, I'm not set up. I'm just not. And I had to say to him, he wanted a bigger discount than I was offering. And I was like, I'm not a publisher, I'm not a traditional publisher. So you can't have those expectations. And he eventually worked it out. But I like having input, and I like being treated as an equal. And so I really appreciate it when an editor at a traditional press comes to me and says, we're talking to this illustrator, it's his first book, and he really doesn't want to do revisions. And I can just say, it is not unreasonable to be asking for this, this, and this. And you can let him know that 2 debut illustrators, women who did a book of mine, it launched their career. So this is his opportunity to have a really profound impact and to make a statement. And I just thought he's just not putting the effort in. And it's his first book. He's, of all the people seated at the table, right? He's the one with the least experience making picture books. All of the rest of us have experience, and he doesn't want to listen. So then it isn't really, there's nothing you can do at that point. I'm like, okay, well, we tried and he's not interested. So I won't be working with him again. But yeah, I'm not at a point in my career where I can just pick and choose Jacqueline Woodson can pick whatever illustrator she wants. I don't get to do that. But if you have the right editor, then hopefully their vision is closely enough aligned with yours that you end up with somebody who's a good fit.
Well, it sounds like, who knows why anybody does anything, but it sounds like a lot of insecurity and masquerading as perceived brilliance. I'm in control, so I can't possibly be wrong. There's no need for me to feel insecure. I'm going to do all of this my way.
I'm an artist. I know what I'm doing. I'm like, you are, but you're used to doing portraiture, and portraiture has limited storytelling capacity, right? Like, again, people think picture books are just somebody scribbles something on a page. I'm like, no. You have text, and then you have to fill in some of the blanks with your illustrations. So you're storytelling with pictures. You're still storytelling. So if you choose to take, a stanza of a poem and just put a butterfly on the page, a close-up of a monarch butterfly, you haven't said anything. But guess what? Butterflies are migrants. And we're writing about African Americans. So we can link this to the Great Migration. So you could do pencil drawings that show streams of migrants, moving forward. And there are lots of different things you could do, but that's far more sophisticated than just painting a butterfly or painting, to say people can dance with joy and you've got the face of one person on the page. That's not telling a story. But I'm sure it will be a beautiful portrait because you're excellent at portraiture. So I think, there's a sense that, well, I know what I'm doing because I'm a trained artist, and you are, and you make beautiful portraits, but that is not what is required of a picture book illustrator. You're a storyteller, and that's a very different thing.
And it occurs to me that I refer to the folks at Random House as jokers lovingly. You're all invited on the show. You're all excellent, I'm sure.